Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. All right, we're kicking it off, Angela. It's finally here. Welcome to our first Indiana Splunk community. I guess we're calling it a kickoff, although it's really no longer January, February. So Angela Fruits and I are going to be your hosts for the day, along with Eli Lilly. Some of you might recall this event was originally supposed to be on site at Eli Lilly. I think it was in February or March. It must have been March. And then the unprecedented event happened, and here we all are. So we decided to go ahead and hold this virtually. So it's nice to hear people recognizing one another. We've got 2 hours here together, but really what we're focused on in the next 2 hours is a forum that we wanted to put together for all of our Indiana Splunkers to have a chance to get to see one another again, meet one another if you haven't done so, and a chance to collaborate. Angela and I both are based here in Indy, and we call on the bulk of the accounts here, but really the customers that are represented here are from all of our segments, and that was the purpose of this. We've got customers here from the strategic side, commercial, field, PubSec, and education. And we felt that, you know, over the last couple of years, there's been so much growth in Indiana when it comes to Splunk across all of these segments. And we thought it would be a great way to collaborate for between our customers and our partners and even our executives, the usability and the ROI of your Splunk investment. Because when that starts to happen, that's when your investments really start to take hold and start to improve and increase. So we hope that this new Indiana Splunk community meetup is going to be our first kickoff and will encourage collaboration moving forward. At the end of this, we're going to talk through what some additional events we have planned for Indiana, and we'll share that with you, but we really wanted to create this collaboration. The intent for the Indiana Splunk community kickoff and the meetup is really for us to meet. We think we're going to do it right now once every 6 months. We'll go into more of a schedule of additional events that are planned at the end of the presentation, but that's what we had initially thought. And with the first one, because we didn't really have any input from the customers, we chose the topic. So the topic, you know, today is going to be on observability and microservices. So our presenters are going to be Kishan Patel and Troy Parton from our SignalFX acquisition. So they're going to talk the second half of this. And then Brett Williams from Eli Lilly. Lilly was gracious enough to offer to host it on site, and then they were gracious enough to put together a couple of slides to walk through their journey. I'll let Brett introduce himself in a little bit, but he's going to spend some time with you guys in the very beginning here and really talk about where they started with Splunk, why they went down this path and where they're going, and then walk you through some of the dashboards that they've created and some of those key use cases, and then the operization of the Splunk environment. So I think you're going to get a lot out of this. There's also some very interesting COVID-19 and this work from home environment that they've been using Splunk for that I'm hoping you all can take away and leverage. Then we'll jump into, as I mentioned, the real-time cloud monitoring and observability demo, and then we'll have some Q&A and wrap up and next steps. Angela, did I miss anything?
Sounds great. Thank you.
Okay. Brett, I think at that, I'm going to stop sharing and turn it over to you.
Okay, thanks, Julie. And yeah, really appreciate the opportunity. With the current times that we're in, there's no other company I would rather be at and no other product that I would rather be working with and greatly appreciate the partnership from professional services and Splunk as a company with helping us along in this journey over the past few years. I was just remarking with John Dowler just how far we've come from our initial 10 gig license, and now here we are at 3 terabytes. So it's quite an interesting growth journey, and that's what I hope to share with you today. So let me go ahead and get my sharing started. And
great.
Okay, it looks like we're good there, and I've got my note slide, so it looks like we're ready to start. Perfect. All right, everybody can see? Looks like it, yes.
All good. Thank you.
Deal. Okay, so off we go. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about Lilly as a company, just to kind of set that stage, because obviously Lilly has a large presence globally, but centrally here in Indiana and Indianapolis, which is our home, our headquarters, our corporate headquarters and world headquarters as a company. And Lilly is a global healthcare leader that unites caring with discovery to create medicines that make life better for people around the world. We were founded more than a century ago, actually just celebrated our 144th anniversary, I believe, on Monday. And we were founded by a man committed to creating high quality medicines that meet real needs. And today we remain true to that mission in all of our work. Across the globe, Lilly employees work to discover and bring life-changing medicines to those who need them, improve understanding and management of disease, and give back to communities through philanthropy and volunteerism. So that's basically just some boilerplate language, but I think this video really kind of explains some of the passion behind what we do. So I'm going to go ahead and play that now. So Eli Lilly was a man, a colonel in the Union Army, and 1876 is when Lilly, the company, was founded. So some of our founding and enduring values, and these are our values today, really ring true to what our organization is about: integrity, excellence, and respect for people. And that really guides our work and connects us to the lives and needs of those that we serve. And one of my other favorite quotes, we see this all over our offices, corporate campus and offices worldwide, is a really great quote from Colonel Lilly himself, where he charged us to take what you find here and make it better and better. And whether this takes the form of discovering new medicines or finding new ways to support patients or improving our communities, we strive to improve the lives of those we serve in our work each day. And the work that we're able to do with Splunk, the tool, really helps us channel this, because as many of you know, the possibilities really are kind of endless when it comes to what you can do with this tool. So a little bit about our journey. So I'll jump into the history. And basically, we started in early 2016. We explored Splunk the technology in 2015 and realized that it was going to be a pretty compelling tool that we could use. And it was actually recommended by another vendor over their own solution, which they offered for reporting for their platform. So it was kind of interesting that they recommended Splunk over their own analytics engine for their own tool. But we had a single server. We actually still have it today. We just refer to it as our legacy environment, named TigerCat 615, which is kind of an unusual name for a server, but it's actually named after one of these, which, as you can see, it picks up a bunch of logs and moves them from one place to another. And it couldn't imagine a more fitting name for a server that runs Splunk. So the initial use case that we had was for a new remote access services platform that we were putting into place and transforming from a more legacy solution to a more forward-looking solution. And along with that came the need to quantify its existence, really, and why we needed to go that direction. We desired more visualization capabilities. And as we grew that capability throughout 2016, we started socializing those new capabilities to the rest of the business, and honestly started making some people a little jealous. And they were like, wow, that's pretty amazing what you're doing there. You're IT, you're not like an analytics part of the organization. And so it just continued to blossom through there into a period of more growth. In 2017, 2018, we eventually made it up to another milestone, 250 gigs a day. And we brought on more operationally focused use cases. Identity management and federation services, our self-service password management tool, which we call My Password, was launched globally. We'll actually see some dashboard examples from there. We run educational phishing campaigns globally for our workforce, where we will actually phish our employees and try to catch them. And then, of course, we turn that into an opportunity for reward when somebody succeeds in identifying the phish, and of course, an opportunity for training if they end up falling for it. Global network services started using Splunk as well. Manufacturing and quality, which is near and dear to what we do as an organization, because we are in the business of making medical devices and medicines. And quality, of course, is incredibly important because ultimately these, the things that we produce are medicines that people put into their bodies. Now, we're not making any like GXP kind of decisions with Splunk, but Splunk is very integral to the security aspect of our manufacturing and quality space. Last year, we made quite a large investment, and we pivoted more to a security focus as we realized that Splunk was able to meet needs where our existing SIEM was not. We ended up deciding or considering to replace ArcSight and the entire suite of tools that we were using for our security information and event management platform. Digital Health, which is our medical devices division, started using Splunk for their cloud monitoring. We also matured as we went along, because continual improvement is something that's very much a passion at our organization. And our data onboarding became quite a long standard operating procedure and SOP with many pages of documentation of how we do data onboarding in a repeatable and controlled fashion within information security. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes as well. And this year, our security journey continues. We ended up making the decision to purchase enterprise security, and we went live with the tool in April. Now, it wasn't like an immediate thing where we just pulled ArcSight out from underneath everyone and said, okay, you're using Splunk Enterprise Security now. It was with a measured and very pragmatic approach where we made sure that enterprise security was going to meet and exceed the expectations of our security operations staff. We've been continually maturing into an agile mindset in our daily operations with our projects. and use case development. When it comes to when we as an organization socialize what information security, the value that we bring to the organization, which is keeping our company, our people, our intellectual property safe. A lot of that use case development is what feeds what keeps us up at night. We're also starting to enter a period where we're starting to centralize because information security, although we are the most mature and largest deployment of Splunk in the company, there have been other pockets of Splunk that have popped up under our guidance. And of course, with partnership with our account management team, Julie's actually very good with notifying us when she gets a new contact from somebody at Lilly or one of our related companies that may not be under the Lilly brand, but Elanco, for instance, although Elanco no longer is under the Lilly brand, Elanco up until about this time last year or the year before was a subsidiary of Lilly. Yeah, account management team has been great with letting us know when something new comes up, and Julie will ping me and say, hey, do you know this person? They asked me about Splunk and they registered for an account, they downloaded it, and then I'll reach out and figure out what their needs and aspirations are, and we'll guide them to building up a best practices instance to meet their needs if we cannot, if we don't have the bandwidth to do so ourselves. And that being said, new interest continues to flow in. I would say probably every 3 to 4 weeks, I get somebody new that says, hey, I've heard about this Splunk thing. Can you tell me more? And I'm always happy to do so. So enough about that. How about I just show you some of our dashboards? So I'm gonna go kind of in chronological order. I mentioned a self-service password. This was a global, whoops, didn't move my mouse off enough.
That's okay, Brett. Happens to all of us. There we go.
That means I've been talking too much. My computer is like, I'm gonna lock you now. All right, so with our self-service password service, which we refer to as my password, it was a globally branded initiative to bring people into this tool. And we needed to measure adoption of this new global service because a lot of it was dependent upon users taking action to register themselves. So it's not something that just happened in the background. We had to, it was a call to action for people to do this. We also coupled that with a rollout of a new multi-factor authentication method. So what we ended up doing was creating custom dashboards based upon the information that this application would give to us in log form. And we used that information in conjunction with tables, public kiosks as part of our public relations outreach within the company to have real-time metrics. And we were giving out cups and pens and Lilly IT t-shirts, matching the branding that you see on that banner right there. So when we hit like a milestone for like the 5,000th registrant, which happened at our technology center, we gave them a t-shirt. Congratulations, you're the 5,000th registrant of the service. Ultimately, that project was a huge success. Get some pictures of the team here. We reduced calls to the service desk by 50% with this project. And all the measurements of the adoption were shared all the way up to C-suite level. And you know, was all driven by Splunk, insights derived out of Splunk. Another use case that we have are ethical / educational phishing. This is something Aaron Hanline works with in our group, and also credit to Kenny Group for helping us develop this custom app. All the visualizations, of course, you might see some standard Splunk visualizations, but everything underneath the covers is completely custom. So this is not a traditional use case where we actually get logs from our systems because our ethical phishing campaigns are actually carried out by a third party who specializes in doing these things. And the data set that we were getting back from that company was very, very hard to analyze and trend. Think pivot tables and drill downs in Excel. It was not fun. And of course, phishing attacks are one of the highest security threats against companies today. And with a single click of a button by any company's employee, an attacker can initiate a secret war attempting to sneak malware into the environment or by exploiting an employee's trust. So what we were able to do with this, this static data set, it's basically all of these panels and dashboards are essentially driven with structured CSV data. So technically, it doesn't even cost us much license ingest for this. But the amount of value that we get out of it is astronomical. So this is actually a snapshot of by organizational level click behaviors. It's intuitive, it's user-friendly. Dashboards are tailored for all levels of the organization. And of course, these end up in front of very influential and powerful people within the organization that have the ability to drive behavior within their organizations to improve our security posture. This one is like a departmental wide or regional view of user click behavior. There's also the ability to discover trends over time. All those different colors are different parts of our company and how they have progressed or relapsed over time. And then finally, I mentioned before that we use this as an opportunity to reward good behavior. And also as a training opportunity when people do end up falling for a phish. And again, because we have all this data in Splunk, we can trend that information over time and ratchet up or ratchet down training. And kudos to those who regress or end up doing better. So that is what we're doing with educational phishing and using Splunk for in that space. Another item that we have, and I'm just sharing this, I inserted this at the last minute, but this is John Daller's setup at home. He has a dedicated monitor on top of everything else that does nothing but rotate through Splunk dashboards all day. And this is where we're getting to some of the more recent things that we're doing. Now, naturally, in a time like this, with so many companies working remotely, or so many people in workforces working remotely now, it's very, very important, of course, that VPN infrastructure and reverse proxy infrastructure is able to withstand the load. And we are making minute-by-minute decisions on what to do with our remote access services infrastructure based upon insights gained out of Splunk. So we knew that this was coming, of course, and a few weeks before the work from home directive was given to our global workforce, our remote access services team, which is actually within information security, was working to beef up infrastructure. We already had a lot of that in place, but we just had to break apart some clusters where normally we would have high availability. We made the trade-off of, well, we need capacity instead of HA. Yeah. So of course, stakeholders are wanting assurance that the infrastructure will hold up with demand, and they're going to want quick access to those metrics. And the good news is all this data was already in Splunk. Remote access was actually, as you might remember, our very first use case. So this dashboard, which is just a beautiful work of art, was put together by John Dowler and others on that team, where they can see user concurrency, operating systems, geographic concentrations, CPU memory utilization, throughput peaks and valleys. And again, all that information is shared in real time as needed to those in our organization who need to make decisions based upon what's happening right now. And now this is a part where I feel very proud to be a part of a company like this. Is you know, this pandemic which has hit us is. I mean, none of us have really experienced anything like it in our lifetimes. And what makes me very proud is the response that our organization has had. You know, I'm wearing my Team Lily shirt today because this is our our culture. We win together, we lose together. And as this was coming up, Lilly just announced that the company will start offering drive-through testing for the viruses that causes COVID-19. At first, we offered it to healthcare workers, and it's expanded since then. But we started doing this testing back on March 23rd. And preparations began just a few days before that, actually. So this is actually an anonymized diagram of what that application actually is. So we actually, in 4 days in mid-March, we put together information and press release website, a COVID-19 testing registration and test result portal, an on-site check-in, because again, this was a drive-through testing, an appointment scheduler, a volunteer portal, and ever since it went live, there was 24/7 development from Lilly volunteers, Lilly employees that stepped away from their normal day jobs to take part in this effort. We had many organizations from contracted organizations doing development, and all the business processes and system stabilization, all this was done in just 4 days. And as it turns out, Splunk was a pivotal part of information security's involvement in putting this effort together. Is, well, if we're going to put this together, we need to make sure that it's working the way that it should be. And Splunk was the natural choice for having those insights into that cloud infrastructure that is supporting the customer-facing portion and call center and all various aspects of our COVID-19 response with regard to the drive-through testing. So this is actually a screenshot of one of the dashboards where we actually show real actual numbers of how many people have been tested, how many people have gone in to retrieve their results, all in a portal application that we put together in a matter of less than a business week. So now that we've gotten that out of the way, shared some cool pictures, I'm going to talk a little bit about how we operate as a Splunk team. So GitHub is our source of truth, but sometimes we reverse that. So like our indexes configuration, that's very highly controlled. We don't let anybody just go in and make changes to that. And there are business requirements and legal requirements which drive what that index's configuration ultimately is. So it's a very sensitive configuration where, in the case of our environment, GitHub is the source of truth. Now, sometimes we actually reverse that flow, and GitHub becomes our configuration audit trail. In a situation where somebody makes a change, well-intended, they may mess something up, and then you're dealing with tracking down the gremlins of trying to figure out, well, why did this stop working? Well, what we're doing with GitHub is we're synchronizing up our production and down level configurations every 15 minutes, so that if something was there and it disappears, or something was changed, we can see exactly what changed, what it was before, what it was after. We also use Jira for our work prioritization and tracking. Portfolio management is an external part of our processes where project management occurs. But when it comes to the nitty-gritty details, Jira is where we keep track of what changes, why, and when. We also use ServiceNow for change and incident management. And finally, our guiding principle behind all of this is quality. We channel the spirit of the quality attention, the same quality attention that Lilly gives to our medicines throughout all of Lilly Information and Digital Solutions, including information security. So although we're not held to the same standards as like a manufacturing line that's producing batches of medicines, we channel the spirit of that in a right-sized approach. Within all parts of Lilly Information Technology and Systems and Digital Solutions. Now, that being said, data quality is something that we're just beginning on our journey, but with our very close partnership, and it is not at all adversarial, it's actually very productive because Lilly Information Security was originally born and started as an organization underneath our chief legal counsel. Now today we do have our own senior level leadership, a chief information security officer, but we still are in constant dialogue with information security, because ultimately, with Splunk being our source of truth of actions we take to detect and respond to security incidents in our environment, the tool needs to, there needs to be a certain level of assurance that the tool is doing what it should be doing. So what we do to meet that need, and again, it's a continual journey. It's not something you just do once and then you're done. It's continual, and we're constantly improving and maturing on this. But something that I'm hoping to coin out of this whole discussion is from source to screen, from where your log data originates to where somebody looks at it on a piece of glass, on a computer screen. They should have a full level of assurance of confidence that from the log source, where the servers and the files and that log is ingested, to where it flows over the network from a forwarder, or whether it's syslog, or you're reaching out into Cloud API to grab it down with a script, to the source type that it maps to and indexes. Are we retaining that data? Are we watching the velocity and the volume of that data at an individual host and source type level to make sure that nothing goes dark? Because many of you probably learned that if you're missing a forwarder, well, that's just because the forwarder isn't running, and that's about as deep as you can go. To tagging and data models, common information model, and the health of your accelerations. And finally, there's all the third-party apps that we use in a strategic way to make all of this easier for us. Syslog is another big thing. I'm going to go through this part kind of quick, but I'm a bit of a syslog aficionado, so if you ever want to talk syslog, feel free to schedule some time with me. Julie, you're free to give out my information to anybody if they want to talk about more, anything that I've mentioned on this slide deck, so feel free. But we ended up building our syslog strategy before Splunk Connect for Syslog was a thing. Would have preferred to use that, but unfortunately it came along after our strategy was already in place and we already had all of our servers. Our architecture is a culmination of many comp sessions. I've been to comp 4 times now. Yeah, syslog is definitely a passion of mine. I love talking about it. We have universal forwarders in all of our data centers, which are running our syslog, and they are redundant and load balanced. So if a syslog server fills up or goes down, we don't have an outage in our syslog feeds, because as it turns out, syslog is actually one of the more meaningful data sources when it comes to what's going on, because a lot of network devices are coming in via syslog. Architecture and design, a lot of you are probably familiar with these. We did build on virtual VMware first, and to the best of our efforts, we tried to get it to work, and it worked well until we got to a point where we realized it wasn't. Our virtualization team was kind of surprised. They were like, wow, I've never seen CPU ready numbers that high before. And we're like, yep, sorry about that. We're going to have to go physical. So at this point, our indexers and our search has at least an information security, excuse me, are all physical dedicated hardware. We're using multi-site index clustering, search head clustering, and both those clusters are spread across 2 data centers, which meets our business continuity requirements. So that is our journey. And just to remind you, this is what we live by. Our values, our purpose, and taking what we find here and making it better and better. So with that, I'm finished about 5 minutes early, which is great. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask now, or if we want to move on to the next segment, I'm happy to do that too.
Thank you, Brett. Really appreciate all the effort you put into that. It showed. And as a fellow Hoosier here in Indiana, we appreciate and value Eli Lilly, especially for what you've done for the community here during the pandemic, and value your partnership. So thank you very much.